All right. So let's get down to business. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to pick up right where I left off with the Tuskegee Airmen. These African American fighter pilots flew P-51 Mustangs, which you can see down in the bottom right-hand corner, and they trained at the Tuskegee Institute in Alabama, and they were commanded by white officers, and they supported the Allied invasion of Italy. They weakened Germany before the D-Day invasion by helping provide like a fighter screen that was able to limit the amount of German air power that was able to continue attacking Britain, as well as uh, escort bombers such as B-24s and B-17s and protecting them from German fighters so that they could actually bomb the German army and actually, believe it or not, Germany proper itself and a lot of their defense factories and munition factories. So they really opened up the door for other African Americans to serve in the military. Um, and they really represented this major fight to end segregation in the military throughout the entire United States. Um, they did serve with distinction. You can see those classic red tails right there on the P-51, and I mean they made a name for themselves. They were very highly respected and very effective in combat. All right, so let's keep going here. That's your classwork for today. You'll see it in a Google Doc. Saved each one of a copy for each one of you. Not too bad. All right, here we go. 86.5. We're going to compare the ramifications of World War II on South Carolina and the United States as a whole, including the training of the Doolittle Raiders and the Tuskegee Airmen, the building of additional military bases, the rationing and bond drives, and the return of economic prosperity. All right, so let's get after it. South Carolina on the home front, guys. So many South Carolinians could not serve because they were illiterate or in poor health. By the time World War II came around, the military was mechanized and technology driven enough to the point where you needed to be literate to fight. Okay, you needed to be healthy to be able to carry heavy rifle and equipment in the field. Women and children were often left behind to work in the fields and farms, and mobilization meant more industrial jobs. So you've got tanks, weapons needed to be made, ships needed to be laid down, and you've even got aircraft that had to be built. All right, so cities began to grow in South Carolina, and a lot of it was around this home front mobilization for the war effort. All right, people in South Carolina would use what's called ration books, and they collected scrap metal because all metal was very precious for the war effort, and they bought something called war bonds. Okay, and a war bond is where you buy stock essentially in your country. So, like if you buy a bond today for $100 and you keep it for 20 years, you would hope it would have increased in value to like $200, right? So, in other words, Uncle Sam, that's the government, gets your money up front to help fund the war, and then they promise over the course of the next 20 years that bond will return probably close to double its value for you. You can see those ration books, meaning when you went to the grocery, um, uh, you would literally have this much dairy, this much meat, this much vegetables, that kind of stuff that you could purchase. All right, and you see a lot of victory cartoons and stuff like here. Uncle Sam says garden, right? Have a victory garden, and you see Rosie the Riveter there. Ladies hard at work. Join us in a victory job, doing something that would really help the war effort. And you can see this young lady here carrying all the mason jars, and she's being patriotic, not worried about those ration cards. All right. So we talked about bases expanding with Fort Jackson and the Navy base in Charleston. Um, Also, United States Marine Corps basic training is in Paris Island. So we have an Army boot camp and the boot camp for the Marine Corps here in South Carolina, and a major naval base in Charleston, where I'm still stationed to this day. Air bases, they were built in Columbia. Matter of fact, the current airport served in the capacity. Shaw Field, it was not called Shaw Air Force Base because the Air Force did not exist at this time. It was actually called the Army Air Corps. Um, and so Shaw Field was there. And you've got some other things going on in Columbia where the Doolittle Raiders trained. okay, which we talked about them in the previous slide in the previous lecture. So Franklin Delano Roosevelt's executive order led many African Americans to leave their farms and travel to the west and north for better jobs. Economic prosperity continued in South Carolina after the war. Relating to the economy, the GI Bill, which is essentially a fund for veterans to go to school and go to college or start a business. And then it led to something called the baby boom. All right. So, yeah, hey, boomer. That's kind of what this comes from. After World War II, all the men that were able to survive came home to their, sweethearts, and, well, there you go. Babies everywhere. Lots of babies are born. With the increased availability of the automobile, more and more people moved to the suburbs, and we had this consumer culture. These guys had survived a 5-year long world war, and they came back home to make the best out of it. No doubt about it. All right, don't worry about the classwork and chart. That's really about all we've got for you today as far as video lecture. So just make sure you go through this, review it, do your Google Doc assignment, and you guys have a great Wednesday. Trying to keep the load a little bit light for you because I know I gave you that long lecture video, and we'll do part 2 tomorrow for Thursday. As far as that longer kind of like documentary video, but they really are worth it. When we take this test, it's going to tremendously help you. So I just wanted to keep this short and sweet. All right, guys, y'all take care and good luck.